Everyone, in this video we're going to be covering some teams that will be useful for Grand Arena. Possibly you could use these for Territory War, but this video is more for a Grand Arena part. So, with no matter if you're talking Territory War or Grand Arena, you're basically coming down to trying to get more points than your opponent. And I don't know if very many of you play chess, but it's kind of like a chess match, you know. If you have a strong offense, but you go weak on defense, for example, then you got to be able to clear your opponent completely. And with so many people, putting a lot of their strong teams on defense, or the other main strategy is to save them for offense, you have to kind of balance. So one way to balance it is to come up with teams that will surprise your opponent. Now, the reason why you want to surprise your opponent is this. It gets them out of the known counters to your teams. If you move them into the unknown, then there's an increased chance that they can make a mistake, and then they drop a battle, and suddenly in Grand Arena, they have had to use two teams on one of your defensive teams. Not only do they get less banners for that, it gives you a chance to win without much of a headache. Because if we go with the traditional route where you take two players, they're pretty much equal, they put similar strong defense, they have similar offense, it comes down to who is the most efficient. And you could be talking like 1 or 2 points. I've had matches like that where, they lost by 3 points. Or my opponent lost by 2 points, whatever the case was. But if you have these surprise teams, it pulls them out of the known counters and they have to guess what will be good against it. And they go in there and they underestimate, or they don't understand the mechanics of your team, and suddenly they're losing battles, and pretty soon they can't get the banners, and possibly they might not be able to clear a zone, which would be even more points that they can't get. So we're going to be looking at surprise teams. Now, surprise teams, as a caveat, are beatable. They're not Galactic Legend teams. Okay. So they can be beatable, but what we're going after is finding teams that's solid, teams that have high potential, and that will push your opponent out of what they know. So with that being said, let's scroll down here. Best surprise 5v5 teams. Now we're going to start off with a couple rebel teams. First one I want to bring up here is Sana Staro's team. Now a lot of people might be thinking, why her? There's obviously counters to her, but you don't see it on defense a whole lot, which means not a lot of people are going to be using her. So especially in like early and middle, and maybe up into the later stages of the game, this could be a good way to surprise your opponent. With this kind of lineup here, you'll have 2 tanks. Sana, if I remember correctly, and we can click on her real quick, is support. Oh, she's attacker. So she's an attacker, so your team will have 2 attackers. And Captain Han Solo not only can revive your tanks, but he also heals, so he's a perfect support character. 2 tanks makes this team really defensively strong, and if the enemy doesn't know what they're doing, they could very easily drop a battle to this one. Rogue One with the Omicron, I feel like, is another team. I've actually had people struggle with this occasionally. I do need to get K2 up higher relics, and obviously Bodhi Rook. K2, if you get your tank up on this team, it will make this team a lot tougher, just to be honest. You really need a really high tank. This is a team I'm circling back to work on. Bodhi Rook, the reason why I have him in here is because after looking at his kit, he actually synergizes really well with Cassian. I can do a video on that on Rogue One and show you the synergy on that, but he does have some good synergy there that helps. Moving on to the Mandalorians. Now, we'll have to say that the Rebel teams are surprised, but they are not the strongest surprise teams on this list. The Mandalorian teams here that I have are some of the strongest ones. Using just the regular Bo-Katan Cruise lead, and having Beskar Mando, Paz Vizsla, IG-12 with Grogu is key to this team. You can slot in a different Mandalorian besides Armor I have over here. I just put her in there because she's another light side Mando. I personally was using Jango Fett. Now I'll scroll down here. You can see I got a Relic 7 Jango Fett I was putting in there instead, and the team did really well. So just so you know that. Now, when I did finally get Bo-Katan, Mandalore, I've actually had consistent holds with this team. Now, with that being said, this is with her in there, it is considered a upper tier team. But on defense, it does get some really good holds, and people have been struggling against it. People struggle against it with just a regular Bo-Katan Cruise, just not as often. But again, these can be surprise teams that you can use. Might throw your opponent off. It's not very often you see Mandalorians on defense. Another one that you don't see often is Wookiees. Now you might be saying Wookiees, terrible idea, right? If you have the Omicrons, they can be a very hard force to get rid of. They'll definitely need relic levels, Omicrons, and good mods on them. But if you can get those, then the longer they survive, the tougher they get. They just keep stacking more defense and more offense on themselves, and pretty soon, one of my coworkers said that Zalbar, which he has a Zalbar at a lot higher relic level, just turned into a beast, and starts taking out opponents, and it's just a matter of modding them and getting up high enough so that they can be the furry beast that they really are. One team here that I've gotten some holds with, and that actually has some good toughness to it, is if you do a Mandalorian Beskar lead, you have Quill and IG-11. Those help give you the tank and survivability. And Dash Rendar gives the team additional stat boost, so he's good. Plus he has an AoE. Fennec Shan is a good choice to put in here. And here's the reason. You're with IG-11 and Quill keeping everyone alive and taking and IG-11 taking the hits. Using Beskar Mando's Whistling Birds to give you a burst of offense. But the way to get him to 20 super fast is you have to have AoE attacks. So IG-11, Fennec Shan, and Dash Rendar all have AoE attacks. So you can quickly ramp him up to 20 Whistling Birds and then you can fire them off. That being said, Fennec Shan and Dash Rendar can have some good offense output, so they help support him. Rikarajunda is a really good team. This team, you're going more for stalemate. So you're wanting the enemy to come up against it and attack it when you have it on defense, and they just, they can't get through it. This team stacks up a lot of survivability into it, and if you have the Omicrons to go with it, then this team can be very hard to get rid of. I've had some people actually drop battles against this team, and I strongly recommend this. It's not really gated against anything. This here definitely could surprise people if you have it modded correctly. And for that, you want to make sure you're looking at Sarajunda's lead and her uniques, so you can make sure you get the rest of the team flowing correctly. Very good defensive team to surprise your enemy with. Admiral Trench, I did a video showcasing how fast he can get. This is definitely a good surprise team if you have Trench. If not, you can put Newt in there and bring in another Separatist. Newt will give the team a speed boost. So that could be another surprise team for you. Albeit Admiral Trench might be more for territory war since you won't be able to use his Omicrons. But this again is just a surprise team. You can definitely put this like on your back row, and when they get in there and they've used a lot of their faster teams, this could trip them up and keep them from taking that last zone. Maul Underground. I've had troubles against this team. I definitely would put this as a surprise team if you have Maul. Obviously, the comp, you can put any kind of Mandalorians with them. These are ones I kind of threw in there. He very irritating to fight against, especially with the constant taunt changing and everything, and then Maul comes out there and he can do some really good damage. Plus, some of the Mandalorians can really eat some of your characters up too if you got the right ones on there. Real good surprise team. Something else that a lot of people overlook is Hut Cartel with Leia lead. Albeit it's not the strongest team out there, but it can pack a punch if you have the team up to a certain level. Those attacks that she has can be pretty devastating, and you can definitely struggle against it, especially since you have a tank on the team. Skiff Guard Lando, he adds a lot to the team, and Leia has really good attacks. Bane, I feel like, is a good addition. He has a stun, and you could sub in someone like Imbo instead of Boba Fett. Just depends what you're looking for. Hopefully this gives everyone a good idea for some surprise teams, gets everyone's creativity flowing. Just if you enjoy these videos, please like and subscribe and share them. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so appreciate all the help. Thank you for all the people supporting me so far. This is the way.